My announcement, and now on to the main event. Janis Daly has been a member of Dawn Heights since 2011 and has been president, secretary, and an executive board member at various times. She is active on several committees and is the UU Envoy through the UU Office at the United Nations. Janis is a public speaker, singer-songwriter, a member of the Dawn Heights Singers, and also our returning lay chaplain alongside yours truly. So as you can see, the breadth of experience here is vast for our topic today, which is new lay ministry needed in Canada? Now, there is currently a shortage of UU ministers available in Canada. Some have retired, some have left the field or returned to work in the US or elsewhere. How can our faith grow without enough spiritual leaders? Is divinity school too expensive? Is it a class barrier? This is what we'll be exploring today with Janis Daly.
Thank you so much, Sheila. And I got to tell you, it's such a pleasure for me to actually come and actually speak. Oh, it's been a long time for me to do that. So do we need lay ministry in Canada? Well, today I'm going to present an argument saying that the answer is yes, we do. And we need them yesterday. But first, I'm going to tell you how we got to this place, what the concerns are, and how we can be more proactive in the future. We are running out of Unitarian ministers. We are running out of Unitarian ministers. How do I know this? I'm active on the Sunday Services Committee, and one of my jobs each year is to look for ministers. And this has been the toughest year ever. We have called upon people that are retired. We have called upon people that are in seminary school, of which there's only one that I'm aware of right now. And they're in high demand all across the country. I know for a fact that 6 ministers this year retired. Also know 3 ministers that completely have left the country. Some have chosen not to pursue pastoral church service at all. They're doing their mission another way. And Unitarians across Canada are losing steam. We've already lost more than 10% of our membership in the last 10 years. And as a group across the country, there's only 8,000 Unitarians. And the Canadian Unitarian Council is well aware of this. In their annual report for 2021, they indicated the following. In 2021, we became aware of a significant level of upcoming ministers' transitions. That's speakeasy for people that are retiring and doing other things. Just over 50% of congregations with ministers will be involved in a transition within a 3-year period from 2021 to 2024. That sounds like now to me. We celebrate the many contributions of these ministers retiring and or leaving and look with welcome open arms to new interim and settled ministers to come. But we are also aware that the continuity of ministers' presence in Canada will be affected. And we will be challenged as a country to welcome new ministers to replace this leadership. So this is not something that I just came up with. It's a fact. But we need to look at how we come to have ministers. We need to talk about what it takes to become a professional minister. Do you know that there's a significant cost to ministry? The 3 most popular schools in North America are Harvard Divinity School, Melville Lombard in Chicago, and Starr King School of Theology in Berkeley, California. And that's assuming, of course, if you're going to divinity school that you already have a bachelor's degree. The cost at Starr King and Melville Lombard works out to approximately $25,000 per year, and that's with living expenses, US dollars. So 3 years, $75,000. Harvard's Divinity School is even higher. Their fees are almost $37,000 a year without living expenses. That to me is a whopping $111,000 US, plus. Yes, there are scholarships and grants, but we live here in Canada and we purchase with Canadian dollars. And people will say to me, well, there's Emmanuel College at the University of Toronto. Yes, there is. And I live in Toronto. But the cost there is $7,000 per year, plus books, plus transportation, yada, yada, yada. You know what I'm going to say at this point. This too is out of the economic reach of far too many. Yes, scholarships and grants are down. Student loans are way up. With the added pressure that we've experienced with COVID-19, many current university graduates are struggling. They can't get jobs in their professions, and they're carrying big debt loads on low wages. These are among the youngest and brightest minds we have in the country. What about older minds like mine? This is not to take away from what professional ministers do, but as an adjunct to what they cannot do. I'm not suggesting that we replace professional ministry, but let's look at the situation. We have lay chaplains who can design services for weddings, child namings, and memorial services because professional ministers were too busy with other aspects of service. Can we not do the same thing for a lay ministry program? Of course we can. I see this as an issue of principles. Let me remind you what our principles are. We, the member congregations of the Canadian Unitarian Council, covenant to affirm and promote, 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. 2, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. 3, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. 4, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. 5, the right of conscience and the use of democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. 6, the goal of world community. The goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. 7, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. 8, individual and communal action that accountably dismantles racism and systemic barriers to full inclusion in ourselves and our institutions. Did you hear the 8th one? Do you hear the key in that one? This is a class barrier. This is a systemic barrier that is keeping more people out of our faith than in it. To be inclusive, we must widen our educational requirements to include more at various levels. My interest in ministry actually has a long history. In the early 70s, I went to Adirondack summer camp in the Adirondack Mountains of New York. Please don't ask me why I didn't go to Unicamp, because for some reason I wanted to go to the States at that point in my life. While I was there, I made a friendship with the minister. I'll call him Reverend Joe. And we became very friendly. I wrote to him after camp was over. I wrote to him for about 6 months. And the funny thing about it is that when I wrote to him, I wasn't thinking that I could possibly be a minister. That was just unthinkable. I didn't even dream about it. I didn't allow myself to. But something happened in 2021. And maybe you remember what that event is that occurred, again, because of my connections through the United Nations. COP26. The United Nations sponsored the Climate Change and Environment Conference that took place in Glasgow, Scotland, October 31 to November 12th. I was curious about Unitarian services in Scotland. The Glasgow Unitarians invited anyone who was a Unitarian visiting COP26 to visit their church. So I Googled the church and I saw a term that I really didn't know much about: lay ministry. I discovered that there was lay ministry throughout the UK, and that there was a program for training lay ministers. And I looked up their program and I looked at their aims, and this is what their aim is. The Unitarian Association for Lay Ministry exists to support lay ministry in all its forms. Its objectives are to support all those involved in delivering worship in Unitarian churches and chapels, to support all those in lay leadership of a Unitarian congregation, whatever form that may take, and to promote and share best practices in Unitarian worship and lay ministry. Wow, that sounded really good to me. So I inquired about how I could do the program. I saw that they had some courses online, but there is a component that required you to go to school in the United Kingdom. I have obligations, family here, people that depend on me. I can't go to another country to study now. I checked with the UUA. They have a pilot project in Ohio. I contacted the person there. I read through all the itinerary they had. And the person finally got back to me and said, no, this is just a pilot project in the Ohio area, Ohio. So no Canadians there. I contacted the Canadian Unitarian Council. We have a lay chaplain program. We have no lay ministry program or thoughts about lay ministry. So what does a person do who's called to ministry? What's the difference between being a lay and a professional minister anyways? Lay ministers are people elected in their churches. It could be full-time, part-time, anytime. That's all it means. And lay ministers, I was surprised to learn, can be found in the Anglican Church, the United Church, the Catholic Church, the Episcopal Church, and many, many other faiths. I'm surprised to find out that Pope Francis has joined this new movement. According to the March 19th, 2022 National Catholic Reporter, and I quote, Pope Francis has overhauled the Vatican's central bureaucracy for the first time in 30 years and dramatically expanded the number of top leadership roles lay men and women can hold, reorganizing Vatican departments under the central priority of evangelization. I also learned that my congregation has bylaws that allow for a lay minister. Good. So I contacted several possible mentors. One asked me what I wanted to do. I explained, I'm not trained to counsel anyone, and I wouldn't offer a service like that, but I'm already a church leader. I'm already a lay chaplain, and I have extensive experience with public speaking. And I want to talk about Unitarian spiritual principles and topics. She suggested that I already have what I need to be a lay minister and to just do it. But I still went out and found 2 advisors because although I can research, yes, I can read material, I want direction in what's really worth reading. How am I supposed to know that? So I found 2 advisors that are giving me some direction. And I also truly want to thank our Sunday Services Committee, Sharon Devine, Lorna Wigan, Rosemary Shepherd, and Sheila White for their encouragement to move forward on this. I looked for some source of inspiration, and I found something that goes back, the name Thomas Starr King. Does that mean anything to anyone in this room? It's the name of that divinity school that I mentioned earlier. Thomas Starr King was born December 17th in 1824, almost 100 years ago, in New York City. He died March 4th of 1864 in San Francisco. His father, who was a Universalist minister, preached in Connecticut, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts. When his father died, Starr King was 15 years old. He took over keeping his family well. He became the man of the house, and he had 5 younger siblings and his mother to look after. But there's this one thing about Starr King. He was gifted. He was a person with so much curiosity about the world. He learned to speak Latin and French, and he had a love of philosophy. He was an exceptional student who self-taught himself. At the tender age of 20, he became a full-time Unitarian minister. Why is Reverend King famous? Well, he is the California Unitarian Universalist hero, sometimes known as, quote, the orator who saved the nation. We're talking about Abraham Lincoln's time. During the Civil War, and in spite of having poor health all of his life, he campaigned throughout the state of California, speaking with zeal for the preservation of the Union and against slavery. The Union Army Commander-in-Chief, General Winfield Scott, said Starr King saved California to the Union. Thomas Starr King would say of himself, though I weigh only 120 pounds, when I am mad, I weigh a ton. Starr King was both a Universalist minister and a Unitarian minister long before the two churches had joined up. He described the difference between Unitarians and Universalists this way. Universalists believe that God is too good to damn people, and the Unitarians believe that people are too good to be damned by God. He came to California when he was 36, and he served as a preaching minister at the First Unitarian Society of San Francisco. He built up the parish, and then he founded many other liberal churches along the coast. He raised huge sums of money for the Sanitary Commission, which was later to become the Red Cross. And with money that he raised, he helped refugees from the Civil War to find safety in California. He died young, in his 40s. Here's an excerpt about his death from the 1864 book by Richard Frothingham called A Tribute to Thomas Starr King. Today is the 4th of March. Sad news will go over the wires today. Thus spoke Thomas Starr King at San Francisco at 8 o'clock in the morning. And a few minutes later, he was dead. As the intelligence spread through the city, there was sorrow on all faces. Unusual stillness was in the marts of trade. Public business was suspended. The courts and the legislature were adjourned. The national flag was everywhere set at half-mast. The city was in mourning. A Christian minister had said from the bench, a Christian patriot has fallen. Tears will fall for him in the homes of poverty and distress. They will dim for Thomas Starr King the eyes of brave soldiers from the Mississippi to the Potomac, and good men and true men all over our land, made better and truer by his great, brave, lucid thoughts and his burning eloquence, will weep for him as for a brother. The irony is that he's named for a school he couldn't afford to go to. He couldn't afford to go to that school today. But my faith in this patron saint, I've adopted him, and this guiding light, I believe and have come to believe that I'm okay as I am. I can do this. I don't have to wait. I don't have to have people tell me that I'm good enough. And that's been a long, long journey that has taken me decades. I'm not trying to save a nation. I'm restarting lay ministry in Canada in my own way. I'm certain there are others out there who have the call or will be called to lay ministry in Canada. And I think that we want to help them, help their churches, their congregations and communities to take that next step. They are looking for support from those same churches, congregations and communities. And with time and coaching, selected readings, writing development, and speaking skills, they can do much, because these are skills that can be taught and practiced. And this call is not simply in Canada, it's all across the globe. There are others. There's no vacuum to fill, only hearts and minds that want to be part of a church that calls itself free. Let's think this through. Large congregations can afford to pay for full-time ministry. They need professional ministers. Small fellowships cannot and are trying to make do with quarter-time ministry and at lay-led congregations such as our own Sunday ministers as speakers only. This isn't going to be enough to sustain a budget for what we need to do as a movement. And for those young people that do graduate into professional ministry, how encouraged are they if they can't find a job that they can afford to live at, the amount to live on comfortably? You may remember Reverend Fulgence Ndagijimana, the executive director of Flaming Chalice International, who spoke at Dawn Heights Online a few months ago. I spoke to him and he told me, and I don't know how many people are aware of this, that the International Council of Unitarian Universalists, ICUU, has dissolved. But something new will be taking its place. There is a need for Unitarian salvation in the Philippines, India, and nations across Africa, places that cannot afford professional ministry. So isn't this the time that we seek those already passionate for Unitarian Universalism where they are in their own countries, provide them with some basic training and launch them as lay ministers where they live? They know their countries. They have their awareness of their cultures. They have methods of doing ministry that suit their needs. And this is what grassroots ministry should look like, not top down, but at the bottom, spreading up, taking root like the flowers outside. So here's the situation. We don't have enough ministers. We have retirements, those leaving the country, those returning to the States. We are not attacking professional ministry. We are looking to add and enhance it. Evangelical churches train and accredit their own. We don't like that word evangelical, by the way. Let's not have a problem with that word. We have to see within ourselves that we are a product of our class barriers. Unitarianism has been classified as an upper middle class religion, but education works for those that can afford it. It leaves so many others behind. We have to break these barriers to Unitarian evangelism. This word is distasteful, but it shouldn't be. You can't reach those who you don't teach. We are providing food for the soul. Not enough money? Churches, congregations, fellowships, countries cannot wait 3 to 4 years for ministers who graduate that they can't afford to pay. They need people from their communities that have a desire to be part of something bigger than each of us alone. Let us get out of the way, really, and create those conditions to allow this to happen. Remember, they will find their own soul food and teach us back and feed us all. We'll feed each other. I'm taking the summer to read up and develop speeches on Unitarian matters of heart and mind. And I will be delivering my first speeches as a lay minister in the fall of 2022 and 2023. I'm willing to travel and speak to small fellowships, trying to fill in that gap left by the loss of professional ministers. And it is my sincere wish that this is the start of a new lay ministry in Canada going out to the world. We need lay ministry in Canada yesterday. We need lay ministry in the world now. Our UU young people have started their own type of service, and I don't know how many of you happened to see the national service last week at 1 o'clock, last Sunday. Well, it's a very different kind of Unitarianism. Change isn't easy, even when we know we have to change. I hope you can join me in promoting lay ministry in Canada and in the world. This is a grassroots movement whose time has returned. John Everett Hale's poem inspired the John Sproul, Sheila White song, Only One. where one becomes two and three and four and more. I am only one, but still I am one. I will not to refuse to do what I can. I am only one, but still I am one. Cannot do it all, but I can do some. I am only one, but still I am one. There's a lot of ones of us out there. Lay ministry now. Peace to all. Amen.